Mike Terali, co-host of Crushing Iron Podcast.
Wow, that was intense.
That was intense.
That was intense, man.
The phone was ringing. You know, it's just sort of a habit. I go back.
Man, that was intense. Well, I am Robbie Bruce, the other co-host of the Crushing Iron Triathlon podcast, coach, and occasional color commentator who moves things along, like on Monday's podcast. And today
don't steal my job, man.
I know, man. I know. And today, is April 26th, 2018. Lucky for you, we're doing this a day early on the 25th, technically, so we can have it to you bright and early on Thursday for your morning commute or your morning workout, one way or the other. So happy to get it done today.
No promises, brother.
No promises. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so sorry I'm a little bit late. I'd been helping my neighbor out with a project.
No, please.
No.
Which one? New neighbors or?
No, he's been around a while. He's a drummer, so he's got a. He's in a jazz outfit around town, and he wanted to do a little video. I shot them playing the other night, and I was trying to add a little promo video for him. But check this out.
Okay.
He's not just any drummer. He's an accomplished historian. He played in the Temptations.
No way.
He was in Motown back in the day. He played on
Motown, like Motown Philly?
Motown Detroit.
Oh, Motown Detroit.
He played with the Berry Gordy thing, and he toured. He toured in a band that opened for the Jackson 5 back in the day.
Wow.
And he played drums on the famous classic hit "Papa Was a Rolling Stone."
Dang.
Yeah. So he's kind of legit, dude.
Man,
played in some.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah. So now he's got a jazz outfit going on, and I
helping him out.
Helping him out.
That's good stuff, man.
Yeah.
That's good stuff.
He's a good dude. Been living next to him for 6 years, and.
So he's left side neighbor.
He's not immediate neighbor. He's one removed. My neighbor next door plays guitar for Tom Jones and a guy named John Hyatt.
So ain't that Nashville?
Both of my neighbors are just
ain't that Nashville?
They both have studios, and it's nuts.
Dang,
yeah.
It's not new neighbors, is it?
Mm-mm.
Okay, I didn't think so.
No.
Is the jury still out on the new neighbors?
They're fine. They're
okay.
They seem to be millennial hipsters. No, they're pretty. A little bit.
Better hope they don't listen to this podcast.
Nice guys. Oh, yeah, love them.
Good save.
Nice.
Good save.
Probably early, mid-30s, buying $500,000 homes. It's just nuts. I'm like the pauper of the neighborhood.
Interesting. I know you are. You're like the godfather of Valley Park Drive.
Easy now with the address. Yeah. So, boy, I got done with that stuff I was helping my neighbor with, and got on Facebook for a minute, and there's quite a firestorm brewing.
Yeah, I actually had an athlete send this to me this morning. Or was it this morning? It seems like forever ago. I think it actually was this morning. Like 5:20 or 5:30, and I gave it a read, man, it's an interesting take, and I think that we another athlete actually posted it in the Crushing Iron closed group, and so if you're a longtime listener or a first time listener, we have a group just for the podcast. That's on Facebook. You can search Crushing Iron Group to be a part of that. And somebody posted it in there. And the title of it is, I think, The Watering Down of Ironman. Is that what it was called? Something like that. The Watering Down of Ironman. And, man, it's, The Watering Down of Ironman. It's - a rant.
We'll link to it. We'll link to it.
We'll link to it, and I think a lot of people, it's been passed around a lot. It apparently was just posted. And it covers, I think a lot of it, as with most things, I got to say a little bit of it feels like a little bit of clickbait. and like, you want to drum up a lot of debate back and forth because that gets more shares and that gets more clicks. And the guy is titling his own things at the top, and so I see a little bit in that. I get a little bit of feel in that, but some of the stuff. I mean, and listen, this is going to be a hot button topic, and I think everybody has a very I don't want to say a sensitive. It's a sensitive subject, but
People
it's probably
get so mad, man.
They do. They get so mad, and they get
man,
so
you are
bent out of
dancing around
shape.
this so hard right now.
I know, man. I've never. It's like I'm talking to you guys now how I talk to my wife. I'm
So,
trying to
I really,
spit
after
out
that, I did
perfect,
laundry.
And the perfect flow, the perfect words, so I don't get hate mail while I'm in Disney the next 5 days. But
That's right. You sure you want to go out on a?
I know, man. I said I'm just going to leave it with you. If there's everybody loves you, so people can take me or leave me, and But here's what I have to say, and I will say that if you haven't read it, we'll kind of give you a little bit of a context. This athlete was basically. It sounded to me like he was really hating on the changes to the SwimSmart, which you've covered before in different podcasts. But then he actually covered a topic that I actually hadn't thought that much about, which I thought was interesting, in that that the way they've done these new wave starts has somewhat diminished the feel of the midnight finish. And I actually hadn't thought about that. And then he also goes on this other rant that, if I'm just being totally honest, I couldn't give less of a shit about if people call themselves an Ironman, whatever race they've done. I honestly couldn't give a shit.
Now versus the full versus 70.3, he's saying that sometimes in the half Ironmans they'll say you are an Ironman.
Yeah,
and then people get M'd at. But
yeah, and honestly, that's like that. I was like, dude, who really cares? I don't care at all. And so I read through it, and it's like, he says he's an average age group around 14 hours that it takes him to do these, and he does it because it's hard and it's a real challenge and a test and yada yada yada. And then he kind of ends it with he was glad he was able to do his Ironman races before this whole SwimSmart initiative was brought in, and the race was watered down. And so basically, it says, I'll ever do another Ironman unless it's a mass and water start. I'd like to keep track of his stuff. And I get it. He comes across as like an old time boys club kind of guy. Like, you don't belong here.
A guy after my heart.
A guy after, yes, very much a guy after Mike's heart. Like, to me, it's like the Bulls versus Warriors conversation. Oh, they never would have made it to the finals back when the Bulls played because everything was tougher, harder and everything was greater, and like, yeah, honestly, man, if you looked at those teams playing like real time speed, they're slow as shit. And they'd probably get dusted by a lot of how much faster people are these days. But
that's a weird argument, though.
It's the same. It's the same argument. Everything was tougher back when I did it. Everybody has this kind of like possessiveness, and that's kind of where I think I kind of came after I read it, conversed with a few people on it, and thought about it some more, and it's all so relative that I honestly, and I come to the as a place of a coach, and I've been doing the sport for well over 10 years, almost 15 years. And so, a lot of it comes down to people's position on, is it hurting the sport or is it growing the sport? And a lot of people take up the argument that, these alternatives were great for the sport because because it needed to grow. And where I guess where I've kind of finally, when the dust has settled and I read through and I conversed with a few people, is that I don't think the SwimSmart initiative at all, period, is helping grow the sport. I get why they do it. I don't think it makes you less of an Ironman because you didn't do a mass start. But I don't think it has any correlation whatsoever with the growth of the sport. Growing a sport because Ironman is a business, lest we forget, Ironman is a company. It is a business. It's every time you say I'm an Ironman, you're basically saying I'm also, you're a corporation, is what it is. It's a business. It's run like a business, or they at least try to run it like a business. And in my opinion, businesses are the best sustained on repeat customers and the referrals of those repeat customers. And Ironman's problem to me isn't the acquisition of new customers, it's keeping them in the sport. Mm-hmm. It's the investment. And I think that's where it kind of comes down to for me is how invested are athletes in the sport, and most importantly, where does their investment in the sport lie? Are they, I'm all for, I don't want to say making it easier for people to get into the sport, but I think being more open to allowing different abilities to try out the sport. But the part where I guess I kind of start to question how things are being run and why they think it's better is that, to me, if you're heavily invested and you think it was like the hardest thing in the world to do, you're totally bought in. And I think, at least in my experience, you're more likely to do something again. You're all in. You're totally bought in. It was so hard. It was this. It was that. One of the things that I hate hearing the most is that Ironman is easy.
Really? You hear that a lot?
I don't hear it a lot, but I've definitely heard people say it. Oh, it's not really that bad. You've heard it.
Yeah, I have.
We know it. We know an individual. It's like you do one and it's it really wasn't that bad. It's pretty easy. And in my opinion, you always hear them from a lot of the one and doneers. And I guess in short, it comes down to the investment for me. How invested an athlete is in the sport is what makes it grow. And I don't think the sport, the swim, bike, and the run hasn't changed. Has the mass start changed? Sure. But I don't think it's the actual movements and the way they start and if it's rolling or not or mass start or not. I think it's the people. And I think a lot of it has to do with how special everybody wants to be special. Nothing wrong with it. Everybody likes to be special. But I think it's our, especially in North America, because I have athletes in other countries, and this seems to be the kind of the same sentiment, is that at least especially here in North America, athletes are incredibly possessive about their specialness, about them being this or them being that, or they're sponsored by this company and they've done this and they're this. And I think, honestly, a lot of it comes down to it's nobody's fault but our own. In a lot of it, the participants that have been in the sport for a long time, it's nobody's fault but our own that we haven't done a good enough job making the sport welcoming enough, but at the same time, welcoming it to people who are going to be welcoming to others for the right reasons. And I think that has a lot to do with it. I
think you're right. It is something about the culture and things like that. Now, first of all, this rant that this guy wrote, I've probably got a dozen rants like that written that are still in draft mode on crushingiron.com because, that is a certain thing that I totally get. As I totally identify with what he's saying and agree with it, actually, on some level. It's just that I'm not sure if I'm right yet. I don't know. I mean, things change. You made that reference to the old Chicago Bulls and there's a part of me that really went off initially on that argument that agreed with it, but then the more I watch the current version of the Golden State Warriors, I kind of think they might be one of the best teams ever. So it's just different. I as you know, it was special for me because my first race was a mass start at Wisconsin. Had a lot of other variables involved, a lot of people, friends there. I'm from there. I contend that in that incarnation, it was easily the best Ironman that I've done and probably have seen. been a part of. But that's, that could be jaded. So I'm not going to say that. But what I liked about, and we've kind of touched on this a little bit, is what he was saying is that it's supposed to be hard. And there's something about, there really is something about the universal start time that's kind of interesting too to me. It's like, when you pass somebody, you just passed them. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, like to me, what happens is like the self-seed or the rolling start almost gives a little bit of a feel of a training day in a way, because you're sort of on your own. You're kind of out there, you're not racing per se. You're racing your clock. It doesn't feel as much like a race in some levels. But is that a big deal? I don't know. For me, it kind of is. I love the mass start. I mean, we've talked about that. We have a specific podcast on why you think it, and I think it's safer, actually. It seems scarier, but I like your point. I've always loved your point on, like, okay, yeah, oh, it's a rolling start now? Oh, piece of cake, right? So all of a sudden a 2.4-mile swim is in their mind as something that's going to be gravy. So they don't train as hard. They don't work at it, and then that's what makes it dangerous, right? I mean,
I think there's a level of preparedness that comes with it. I mean, and no, I honestly don't think there is any there. It's not a coincidence that I get an email every other day, basically from Ironman Wisconsin, begging me to sign up.
What do you mean there's not a coincidence?
And everybody else does too. It used to sell out, besides Ironman Arizona, Ironman Florida, the two easiest ones. People would sell out in like 2 seconds.
Mm-hmm. Well, I jokingly put in their post on Facebook, I said I'd sign up tomorrow if you guys had a mass swim start.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. Like,
how many people want that?
I think so. I think a lot of people do, and that's okay. Like, and maybe that's like where this whole thing goes to, and like, and I don't think it's all about the swim, but and like everybody, bitches and moans that like, oh, well, it's safer. Like, prove it's safer. I don't see any data that says it's safer. In fact, and I meant to ask Steve Del Monte if there's actually any change in insurance if you do a mass start versus a rolling start. I highly, highly doubt there is a change in the insurance you pay, because you're still having the same amount of people in the water. They still all sign the same forms. I think there's a level of preparedness that comes with it, but maybe they get to a level to where, hey, there's wave starts are attractive, rolling starts are attractive, time trial starts are attractive. Maybe you have like venues that go on like a rolling basis, kind of like they did a few years, and they do it now with like male pros at one race and only female pros in another. Maybe they do races to where this year, and I get it, like a lot of races can't do that anymore. They can't, they just, like Louisville can't do a mass start. Mm-hmm. It just can't. But I would also tell you that the beginning of Louisville is it feels like, and I've done plenty of mass starts on the ocean, the lake. Louisville feels just like a mass start, because you're shoving that many people, even though it's one by one, you're shoving that many people in a very narrow part of the body of water with the island and then the land on the right. But maybe it's like Wisconsin's one year is a mass start, and then the next year it's rolling start. Who knows? We never know if it'll sell or not. But ever since Wisconsin has gone away from the mass start, it has taken longer and longer and longer to sell out. And or you could say, oh well, I guess then well that's what they're doing the rolling starts, because participation is down. Well, other races are selling out. And I thought, changing the swim start was supposed to make it more attractive. But still, people are less. And Wisconsin is, it is up there with one of the best the most spectator-friendly bike course I've ever done in my entire life. And the most spectator-friendly run I've ever been in my entire life, period. So why athletes don't want to do it, why it doesn't sell out over other ones, I don't know. But yes, is participation down consistently across North America? Yes. Is it 100% because of the swim start? I don't think so. Is it 100% because of the staggering of the waves and the self-see and the rolling start? Is it because that's what it's done to the midnight finish? I don't think that's necessarily the answer either. I don't think really anybody knows. I think Ironman's just kind of like shooting in the dark about ways to open up, because if we can't have 1 million return customers each year, well, then now we have to gain at least probably 2 million new ones one year to hope that we can retain X many the next year to continue to keep our profits high and races sold out.
Yeah.
People don't do as many repeat races anymore, and because people don't do as many repeat triathlons anymore, because people are entering and exiting the sport at a rapid rate, and and they're not staying. And I have a lot of thoughts on why they're not staying.
Well, the idea of why, because it's fresh on my mind. For example, Ironman Louisville last year, and how I got to mile 10 and was just cursing myself because I wasn't trained where I wanted to be trained, right? So you go hard as you can for that. Like most people will really be afraid that first time they do it, right? And especially because I was doing a mass swim start, I was really, we worked the water that year, and I was in good shape for it, and I made it out. And the whole race, I was probably in some of my better shape that I've ever tackled an Ironman with. But I also had that newness. But the point is that's one surefire way to not want to do another Ironman or another triathlon, is if you're not trained up for it, because it's just going to be a pain in the ass. It's going to hurt. You're going to be like beat down. It's going to suck. So the minute you start trying to make a very, very difficult thing easy, you just can't do it. Like the swim doesn't become easy because it's a rolling start, but perception of it is, and I've taken that perception. It's just like, there won't be any contact. I'll just be able to cruise or whatever. But then you still got to swim 2.5 miles.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like you don't prepare, or you don't mentally prepare or something, and then all of a sudden it blows because you're not hitting your time ideals, and then the whole race is falling apart, and then it isn't fun anymore. So to me, it's like I don't like to go running out 10 miles or something unless I'm trained for it, because it sucks. If you're not trained up to do an Ironman, if you're not really trained up to the level where I don't want to say to be easy, but it's manageable maybe, then it's not fun at all.
Yep.
It just, why would you want to do it again? So the idea of trying to make Ironman easier by making a rolling start or I don't know, any other changes they might make to take out a hill on the bike course or something like that. I mean, come on.
Well, here's the thing: is I don't think they're making it easier. It's the perception that they're making it easier.
That's my point, though. Is like,
it's, and that's where I guess this guy to me is like totally missing the boat. It's like, I mean, if you're, and depending on what age group you're in, it doesn't matter. Like, I'm in the 35, 39 age group. You know what it feels like? It feels like the exact same thing every single time. Dudes swimming over dudes, crowded, and then after 300 yards, it feels like everything else. Exact same as a mass start. So, I guess where I see Ironman failing a lot is the marketing of making it easier to entry, while the true fact is it's not. And maybe that's what the cause is for, the transient triathlete. They changed the mass swim start, so now it's more feasible. I don't think it's, like I said, I don't think it's that much easier.
Well, a perfect example, dude, is Chattanooga full. Their description, I'm just kind of like winging it here, but it's sort of like a swift 100% downstream swim. And I don't think they use the word easy, but that's kind of the impression that everybody
probably
gets.
Want to.
And that was probably the hardest swim I've done, because I didn't get ready for it. That's my point, is like I got 500 yards away and I was gassed, man. because I wasn't trained up for that swim because I just thought the current was going to carry me because I remember watching the year before and everybody's getting out of the water in an hour and it was like, yeah, you could have just floated down. Well, they shut the dam off or something. For whatever reason, it wasn't as hot of a current. And I was just like, I hardly ever swam before that race. And all of a sudden I'm going to go out and do 2.5 miles. That's like, that's the point you're making is the perception is like why not say, hey, this is going to be a tough accomplishment. You're going to feel so good about yourself once you get done. Not like just say, hey, we're going to make it, perfect water temperature and it's not going to rain. And, once you complete a tough race, it's just so much more fulfilling. I don't know.
Well, I mean, in every that's the thing is like all of this is so circumstantial. It's not even funny. Like, depending on like where you start and who you are and how trained you are and what your experience is, that's why it's all relative and everybody has their own experience. And like, you can say that somebody's an idiot or terrible for having this opinion, but it's all based on our experiences. Whether you've been in the sport for a year, you've been in the sport for almost 15 years, who do you want? Do you want the guy that does the mass start, but can't swim? So he does backstroke the whole time. Is he tougher and more of an Ironman than the guy who does the rolling swim start and swims freestyle the whole way? Like, which way do you want it? And we had another guy on the Facebook group post like, I think the mass swim starts are fine, or I think the rolling starts are fine. Race organizers got to do what they got to do. But what I don't like are the relays. I don't like the relay people. I don't like seeing somebody at mile 20. That's running fast. I want to know they've done the whole thing. Well, to that extent, it's like, okay, well, then where are you drawing the line about people getting to sample the sport? Do you want to make it easy entry? Do you want to make it accessible? Do you want to let people sample or not sample? Do you want to make it hard or not hard? So it's all relative. And like I think we all have this imaginary line that we've kind of drawn based on our experiences about what's better and what's not better. I mean, I have mine. Am I right? Am I wrong? I have no idea. Yeah. Literally no clue how to solve it all. But I can tell you this. I can tell you that one of the biggest problems is so many triathletes are so obsessed about telling everybody what they've done instead of really truly explaining people what the sport has done for them. And I think if you start to tell people what the sport has, what has doing in your first triathlon, what is doing your first half Ironman, what is doing your first full Ironman, what has it done for you? In explaining that to people about how much it's changed your life or how much it's benefited your life or the positive things you've got from the people you've met and the thing, we were down at the race a few weeks ago and I raced it, and then one of our athletes raced it, Summer, and she had said something at the very end. She was like, at the very end, I never knew how tough I was until today. Like, nobody tells people that stuff. We all just want to say that we're Ironmen, and look at us, and we're sponsored, and look at us, we've done this, and I'm this, and I'm that, and I've done this. I'm a 48-time Ironman finisher. I'm a 6-time Ironman finisher, 3-time 70.3 finisher. It's like, that's all people see. And it's about accolades, and it's about, and yeah, should you be proud of those? Sure, you should be proud of them. You work hard for them, you did them, and the fact is you probably overcame a crap ton of obstacles to get to that point. But what you should also be telling people is what it's done for you. Like, I just think that people. And I know athletes that are like this, and I have athletes that have told me that getting in the sport, there's almost a reason they walked away, is because they can't stand the obsessiveness and the prima donna and the diva-ness of most triathletes, to where it's all about, look what I've done. Have you done this? Have you done that? When the reality is that you'd be like, why can't we just share our experiences more than our long rides? And what the sport has actually done for us. Because I think if you market it that way, like the old company I used to do, like when I started working for them, one of their biggest thing is like, about truly changing people's lives. And I remember when I started working for him, I was like, man, that's a bold statement. To really say that what you do and what you offer can truly change somebody's life. And to the same extent, then that's part of your responsibility, as an employee. And the more I worked there, and I don't necessarily think it was totally about the business, but this is a sport where you have an opportunity to 100% totally make a life change and change your life. And I think that so oftentimes, like, race blogs are great, and I think that they share like this whole different side of like how people suffer. But that's also why I like hearing about people's like, and maybe, you know what, and I get it. I have a totally different view as a coach. Like, I get to communicate and have conversations with, so many athletes all over the world that are going through so many experiences. So I get to see that end of it, like the behind the scenes on a day to day, but really nobody else does. And like, that's what's gratifying for a coach. It's not so much the finish time, but what they've accomplished and completed along the way. And to see that they can do that, or they found this thing inside of them. And like, that's what the sport's supposed to do. It's not supposed to be like, oh, well, I'm going to tell everybody in the world that I'm sponsored when you're really not, and I'm this and I'm that, when that's not even like close to the most important thing. It's about pushing yourself. It's about finding out each and every day a little something else about who you are, and working hard and seeing what positive changes you can do for your life.
Yeah.
And those are the aspects that no one ever wants to really share.
That it's a vehicle but I also think it's hard to recognize that sometimes. I mean, I fell into that trap where it's like, the minute you sign up for your first Ironman, it changes your life, and I can just reflect on how I handled that with, everything was look at me. My Facebook posts were about workouts, on and on and on. And then after a while, I realized, like, shit, man, I don't think necessarily people want to see this stuff from me all the time. So it kind of changed into, that's why the Crushing Iron group started. It was like, all right, if you want to be a part of this, that's one thing, but I don't want to, shove it down anybody's throat that doesn't want to hear it. And it became it's a weird thing, because it is an amazing accomplishment, and it is changing your life, and it's all this sort of thing, but it's a long journey, right? Like we talk about staying in the sport, what's going to create longevity, and how you're going to continue to get stronger and happier, and whatever the case may be, and that's the thing about, like, we talk about it, how, our goal is to, how can we make things better for our athletes today? That's kind of like our mantra. And it's every day, that's sort of how we reflect on what we're doing with Crushing Iron. And I just get the sense that, like Ironman doesn't necessarily do that. I mean, I feel like that, they are a corporation, and I'm not saying that, I love them, man. They've done amazing things, and they put on great races and all this sorts of stuff. But you get the sense kind of that they're on a money grab, It's like, how can we get these people in? And we don't care if they do if they're bucket listers, as long as they spend $500 in the gift shop. That's like, we got them 2 years in a row, and then we'll see if we can get them again 2 years from now, blah, blah, blah. So it just feels like that more than...
They do. And as much as I want to fault them for it, it's like they see a demand and they see what's working. And they are a business. And like, would I definitely change a few things? Sure. But like, prime example is their all-world athlete initiative.
Mm-hmm.
They got bronze level, silver level, gold level. All-world athlete. Some days I barely think I'm like all subdivision athlete, the way my runs go. And they've got this title of all-world athlete.
Mm-hmm.
What they've done is they have perfected a way to monopolize and gain revenue by repetitive races over our need and want and desire to feel better than other people and to feel special. When if you go online and you look at, you can go to Ironman.com. And listen, I'm not trying to poo-poo anyone's accomplishments, but just the phrase like all-world athlete is a pretty big effing deal.
Yeah, that's pretty big, dude.
Like to me, it sounds like, holy shit, like, dude, that's huge. And it is a good accomplishment. But if you like go online, you go to Ironman, you can just go to like regularly like Ironman.com and look at, go through their, you can go over to their programs. You can click on All World Athlete, and then you can actually search, where do you rank? Where is this? And you can look up the point system and like the benefits and age group rankings and like, I thought for a little bit when they started this, it was probably a good idea because they may use this as like a way to get people to qualify for Kona was actually through like a point system like they did with the pros. But what it's turned into a kind of like a participation award, because you can actually see
rewards club.
It
like
is
MAPCO.
It is a rewards club. It's like my Costco Gold. I am a official Costco all world customer because I spend a shit ton of money there every single year. But no, like, but if you look at like, your levels of gold, silver, and bronze and like, what you get, and they send you all these fancy things, and they have, but the reason they did it is because they knew people would love it.
Oh yeah, man.
And you can be an all-world athlete. You can be a gold all-world athlete, the highest level all-world athlete. And you can be there with one person who has raced one time and probably did like a 9-hour Ironman and basically won the age group race. And that's his only race of the year. And you'll be on the same level as an all-world gold with an athlete who was probably hours and hours and hours and hours behind that person, but they did 7 Ironman events that year. So they accumulated so many points just by mere participation and finishing. Now listen, but some people love that, some people don't. I'm just generally not a gigantic fan of the program, but I get it. They say, oh, people want to feel special. People will love it if we call them all-world athletes, and they'll see the point system and think, God, if I do just one more race, I'll get to be an all-world athlete. And then they've got this special line at athlete check-in, which I think is hysterical because if you look at it, like people are afraid to use it. Like it's if you go to like a registration, like packet pickup, they have like a special table for all-world athletes, and I've talked to like a ton of people and they're like, fuck no, I don't use that. Like I'm not like, you get to like not stand in line for 5 extra minutes, but you get to use the all-world athlete table, and I'm sure people
I didn't
hate
know they had
saying that. And honestly, I'm
going to use the shit out of that, man.
I know you will. You're kind of getting, like, I get it for like the older population. It's kind of like
Look,
handicap access, but
I have posted, as a fun, I can't remember when it was, maybe a couple of years ago, I posted that on my normal Mike Terali Facebook feed, not in the group or anything, and people went ape shit, man. Like, that's awesome, you're the best.
They would thought you just won the Nobel Prize.
Yeah, man. It was like all these people that aren't involved in triathlon that thought I was just the shit. And you know what? I kind of felt like I was there for a little bit, maybe a day, and then 10% of me was like, maybe I am an all-world athlete. You know what? I think I am. I could be.
But I mean, all world, that's intense.
That's pretty big, man.
That's pretty huge, dude. And like, I remember when I was in high school, like when I made all state, I was like, dude, that's huge. Yeah. Because it actually is kind of a big deal. So I just looked up I was in there, and now they have projected finish. So at the end of the year, it looks like my projected finish is to be a gold, or no, a bronze.
Yours is?
Yeah, projected, because I've done like one race. They actually do now they do like projected, which is so brilliant, because then they're going to say, okay, well, what do you need? And the funny thing is like, it's your all-world athlete. It'd be a bronze, I think, is what it looks like. And at Texas, I was 124th out of 2,800 people. And that gets me a bronze. But if I like do one more race and I do like terrible, but I still do an Ironman race, I get more points. and I'll be better. Which is it's a funny system, just the way that they rank it. But that they did. What they've done is they see the market of people wanting to feel special, and that's what we're obsessed with these days is feeling special, being special, and then it's good marketing too, because people, I want to be an all-world athlete. Can we all just for a moment pause and think about what an all-world athlete is? All-world. That's fucking intense. But and so they, again, back to your point, is do they have each athlete's best interest in heart in terms of growing it in some of the best, like, truer ways? I don't necessarily think so, but then again, businesses don't have to. If people are buying it, then you keep providing it. I mean, that's you just do. If there's a demand, you fill it. Yeah. And they find these ways, like with the AWA and the seemingly easier rolling swim start, or the self-seated. It's so much easier than the mass start. It's the swim start initiative. And like I said before, there is nothing different about a mass start than hopping in with the 35 or 39 guys. And I would even tell you that, at Texas, like I was in 35, 39 age group. We were split in half. The age group ahead of us, like when we got in the water, they were like, okay, can you guys not run us over? So to that extent, is it really safer? As we talked before, like, would you rather be swam over? And I do. I think ultimately, I do think that if you're going to at least market it as like being safer, then yeah, I do think the self-seated start is probably the best answer. But then again, you're still going to have athletes who don't seat correctly, but that's up to them. But no, so I think that, hey, Ironman as a business, does it make you? I mean, you got as much hate mail as we've ever gotten. Back when you said that you're basically not an Ironman if you walk. I forgot what podcast that was, but
people are supposed to forget
all you
that.
People that think I'm the dick, it's really Mike. He just doesn't get caught. But it's like you're not an Ironman if you walk the run. But it's and there's something I've always hated. Oh, you haven't done a real Ironman because you did like Arizona or Florida because they're flat. It's like you haven't done a real one because it's tough and it's brutal. I'm like, they're all hard.
Yeah, they're all brutal.
I have never done a race and thought, man, that was easy. Like, none of them. That was easy. Like, if that's something's off if you say that was easy. And, it's so much of it, again, is relative, based around your experience. But I think it's those shared experiences that, like, yeah, my race was tough, but like it taught me so much. And like that's why, two things. I think everybody should have a chance to work in the hospitality industry at some point, because I think they'll be better at customer service and see like the back ends of restaurants. I think everybody should do that. But then I also think that it would be incredibly beneficial for every athlete to see like a behind the scenes look from like a coach's view of what athletes go through on a daily basis. And what they're able to accomplish. Because, listen, man, we always fall for the underdog story. I mean, why does the Kona broadcast spend 95% of the time on these, like, special interest stories versus the actual race, the actual professional athletes, and even the actual winners? Because everybody loves an underdog story. You pull for the underdog. If you have two teams that are going against each other, you're watching, you have no invested interest at all. Most people are like, "Who's the way? Oh, I'm pulling for them. They're not favored to win. I'm pulling for them." You pull for the underdog, and then you see these stories and you see these journeys and these tales of like overcoming these insane obstacles or whatever it is, and you root for people like that. And because I think in a way, like, we see some of ourselves in those people, and that's why, again, like, why I think Ironman knows, like, the sport isn't grown from the professional ranks, because it's hard for people to imagine, Oh, okay. I can see myself run like 5:30s for a marathon after all that. Yeah, I can do that. They see like the everyday Joe, doing it. And so I just think that those, like, we all have some kind of an underdog story. I think everybody does. Everybody, at least most people, I think, have gone through enough or have, had a tough journey in some way, shape, or form, or had something go wrong in training, or had something go wrong in the race. And so it's like those kind of things. It's like, well, what I learned and what I found out about myself was actually this, or I never knew this about myself and now I know this, or the benefits that it's taken like people in their jobs, the way it's helped their home life, the way it's helped them, set an example for their kids. Like, those are the things, like, that's why it's attractive. In my opinion, not for everybody, and I get it. I totally get it. But for me, like, I get it. Like the finishing of 70.3 Chattanooga, what gets me going is setting a good example and working hard. Thinking about my son. He'll be there at the finish line, or do I do a good job? It's like those are the kind of things that get me going. It's not, to tell people I did this, that for me, it's not that way. But I just think there's such a huge selling point to what this sport can do that is the most underutilized story. It's used to get people into it at the Kona broadcast, these special interest stories. But after that, it's like a one-day sale, and after that, it's like a one-day fire sale where it's like it's like Ironman's Hawaii Home Shopping Network Day, and it's like, how many can we get today? How many can we get to, like, can we pull the heartstrings, and how many people can we totally get today to buy into something where we first know that probably 30% of them won't even do one because they'll quit along the way, or they'll have something happen. So there's free money. But it's like, again, it's the untold side of what the sport really does that I think is what would get even more people into it, but then would get even a larger number to stay.
Yeah, I mean, and what would you do if Ironman sent you an email and it was directly addressed to you, and it had said, hey Robbie, congratulations on the race. This is your 5th or 7th half Ironman, and you did this, and it was somewhat customized and sort of like, we love having you part of this, and we really appreciate you coming back and sticking with it. And I don't know, just I'm trying to think in terms of like, I just wish that in some level, because what they do a great job with is the faces of the Ironman, which is the volunteers. Mm-hmm. And that's I think the underlying, like, secret is that they have a great volunteer program. Somehow they pull the best people in the world out for the most part, and they're the coolest, most supportive, helpful people, and that becomes your memory in a lot of ways. It's like your contact with Ironman is through volunteers, and that makes it personable. But then there's always this sort of like Smithers kind of guy up in the corner office that you're thinking is like trying to play puppetry with this whole Ironman game, and how can we suck more people into this, and how can we squeeze more out of that, and this and that and this. So I just think in some level, if they could maybe, make you realize that they're sort of like grateful, that you're coming back, and we'd love to have you come back and do Louisville next year, or we'd love to have you come back and try, I don't know. I mean, I know that's like maybe asking a lot, but it doesn't seem like it. I mean, it's like a couple thousand people. I mean, it seems they have just an email campaign.
They could definitely do that, but honestly, I probably wouldn't even open it when I got.
Well, you probably wouldn't, but I just think that maybe that would be, instead of creating all-world athletes, maybe they, hey, it's sort of like your one shining moment video or something, or your tape. Not that they would do a video, but I'm just saying it becomes part of it. It's like, hey, did you get your thank you? I don't know. I'm just prognosticating as to how they can, because you do want to be noticed, and you do want to feel good and acknowledged for what you did, and that may be a way to get more repeat customers rather than always just trying to, like it's like they always say about sales, that's a quick way to kind of cheapen everything, right? It's like you should just have a good product, create good service, and create something that people always want to do. And I'm not saying they don't do that, but I just feel like there's sort of a cheapening in some ways when it's always based on, buy now, cheaper, whatever, and like sort of that pressure build. It's like I really just would love to be able to do it, and like you back to the point of the mass start, and we can kind of wrap this up because I think you got to get going. But maybe why not have Wisconsin a mass start and the rest? Maybe there's a lot of people out there that want to do that do want that kind of challenge, and keep them a little bit different. It's like if every baseball field was the same dimensions, I think those things sort of add to the interest level. It's like, yeah, this is different. It
100% adds to the entertainment level. 100%.
Yeah.
And then I don't
like. Why would you want to do a different race? Because it's different.
Yeah, and that's that is something like they need to be all the. I'm like, listen, like people pick races based on how hilly or hot or not races are. So, I get it. And maybe Ironman, if you're listening, that's the answer. Maybe you have different levels of races.
Mm-hmm. Hey, here's a good challenge for you.
Here's,
a tough swim start.
We're doing, and they're all tough. But let's say Louisville is a time trial start. It's a wetsuit in a river with the current. It's super safe. Like Ironman. Suggested race, whatever. Wisconsin, we leave it a mass start. I would be interested to see what would sell out first. Yeah. I would put my money on Wisconsin.
Well, yeah, I know that they were. I feel like just a quick tidbit on Louisville is the numbers were going down at Louisville, but I'd be curious to see were they as. I feel like that they moved it to October, and the numbers are still relatively the same.
Yeah, it hasn't sold out, at least in my knowledge. But yeah, I mean, I think that
we can't be the only ones out there that loved Louisville because it was in August. There's got to be other people out there.
There are other people, but you got to go with the majority. But the thing is I think it's kind of always hard to tell because every single race is down. It's taken longer for basically every race in North America to sell out than it has in years past. So that's the other bad part is you can't change so many things at one, and then at that point you're never gonna figure out what works. It's like when people do like elimination diets. Like you can't tell me that one thing saved your life and you're a new human when you just subtracted 98 things.
Yeah,
and added 4. Like you just don't know.
Yeah, they have created like some kind of potpourri of porridge. They don't even know what the hell they put in it.
Exactly, you have no idea. And so who knows? Like that I don't think that they'll know, but I think that if they went back to a mass start at Wisconsin or any other or at Florida, open water, ocean where you have all the room in the world, and 2 loops, not one. It's like try them there or have them there, and then leave the other ones the way they are. Let people pick, because people always pick on the course. So yeah, who knows? None of it'll change. It'll keep staying the same. But if you're out there, make sure that you're, make sure you're not just only sharing your bib number with the world, and make sure you're not just sharing your medals and your jackets and your tell some people everything else that it's done for you, like what it took to get there, like the things you had to overcome, the late night runs, the early morning rides, and not the fact that you completed it or what your watts and heart rate was, but the commitment that it showed you that you can have in life, and that the dedication that you can have, and if it's translated to your personal life, your professional life, whatever it is, because listen, if you do this sport long enough, if it hasn't done it for you already, this sport and what it can do can have a gigantic positive domino effect on not just your life, but the people's life around you. And you won't even get to see that if you don't even try. And so, I always encourage to other athletes to share your experiences with other. It's the things that they always say in recovery, like when you get up and speak or something, and you say like, I'm just going to tell you about my experience. And I just want to share my experience, strength, and hope. And then if you get something from it, you get something from it. If you don't, you don't. But I think if we would share more of those, more people would be like, oh, well, I've gone through that. I can do this. And then we talked about this in another podcast for us. Like your willingness to be open and vulnerable allows somebody else the ability to be open and vulnerable. So instead of like showing and acting like Ironman is this, pretentious labeling prima donna diva sport, maybe we should work harder on opening the door for so many other people to show them that, it might be easy to enter it. It's not going to be easy along the way, and it sure as hell isn't easy to finish anything, but the things you'll gain along the way will change your life. And if you've ever gotten anybody into the sport and they've stayed in it, and you've watched them grow and watched them overcome things and learn things about themselves, like that's why coaching is the greatest thing in the world. Because when somebody finishes, you don't see the time. You just have this like one big movie-style flashback moment of every single thing they've gone through, and all the times they wanted to quit, and all the times they wish they could give up, and all the times they thought they couldn't do it, or all the times they said their friends said they shouldn't be doing this, or the doctor said they're too old, or this doctor said they're too injured, or their friends said they're too overweight, or they're never going to be great, so why even do this thing? And then you see them finish, and it all goes away. And that's why it's so awesome. So tell people that.
I will, man.
Yeah,
I will. That's a good way to end it. I'll start telling people that. But no, that's a good way to end it. This is our 158th podcast. Thanks for listening. If you got this far, join the Crushing Iron Closed group on Facebook. Just search Crushing Iron Group. We'll let you in there. We have crushingiron.com. We do coaching, but I think at the moment we're capped. Is that correct?
Yeah, we are capped at customized coaching, so weekly training, but we do have we always have availability for customized training plans or just training plans in general. So if you have any questions about the differences or what that entails or vice versa, or just more general info, you can always email me at c26coach@gmail.com.
I'm at crushingiron@gmail.com. You can email me and bitch about whatever.
Yeah,
no, don't do that, man. I'm just not. Anyway, that I think is it. Follow us on all the YouTube, Twitter, all that stuff.
Follow us on the tubes and the social media.
Yeah, and we'll try and make it interesting, but there's no promises.
There's no promises.
All right, buddy.
All right, dude. See you, man.
Yep. Bye-bye.